It is Wednesday, March 25th, 2015. This is your morning edition on I-24 News. Coming up later today, Israel says reports that claim it spied on the Iranian negotiations and then used the information against the Obama administration are utterly false. Europe mourns after a German airliner crashed near a ski resort in the French Alps, with all 150 people on board pronounced dead. And later on the show, we get a glimpse of a post-apocalyptic vision of Tel Aviv, part of this year's Tel Aviv photo exhibition. Good morning, I'm Yael Aviv, and we begin with the explosive report published yesterday by the Wall Street Journal, in which an unnamed U.S. official accused Israel of spying on nuclear talks between Iran and world powers, and then using that information to try to torpedo the emerging nuclear deal. This is the official denial issued by a senior Prime Minister's office official in Israel hours after the report surfaced, saying these allegations are utterly false. The state of Israel does not conduct espionage against the United States or Israel's other allies. The false allegations are clearly intended to undermine the strong ties between the United States and Israel and the security and intelligence relationship we share. Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon later expanded on that denial, saying that a ban on spying activities against the United States has been in place and enforced by all governments for the past 2 decades. Now, the report comes out at a time when Israel and the United States and their ties are already at a low point, during which criticism of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his policies by administration officials has become a near daily occurrence. It also comes less than a week before Iran and the 6 world powers are set to sign a framework agreement looking to remove sanctions in exchange for Tehran accepting restrictions on its nuclear program. Joining me in studio this morning to discuss the recent developments is former Deputy Foreign Minister and Ambassador to the United States, Mr. Dan Ya'alon. Good morning to you. Our one and only I-24 News diplomatic correspondent Tal Shalev. Good morning to you. And Times of Israel senior Arab affairs analyst Avi Sisrael. Avi, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Now, before we start, let's take a look at the following report by the I-24 News Desk and break it down from there.
As the moment of truth fast approaches, the tensions are rising accordingly, and the U.S. is applying pressure to reach a nuclear deal with Iran by the end of March.
The deal we are pursuing is both realistic and achievable. A scenario where Iran forgoes domestic enrichment capacity for all time would surely be ideal, but it's not grounded in reality. Not even our closest partners support denying Iran the ability to pursue peaceful nuclear energy forever. And Iran already knows how to enrich uranium. We can't turn back the clock on that.
Yet regardless of the progress of the talks, a Wall Street Journal report raised a commotion Tuesday when it claimed Israel spied on the closed-door negotiations between the P5+1 countries and Iran. According to the report, the Obama administration was angered not only by the espionage itself, but also by Israel's effort to influence U.S. lawmakers by leaking them information from the talks in order to undermine negotiations. The newspaper added that U.S. spy agencies intercepted communications between Israeli officials discussing details of the negotiations, according to Washington, that they had no other way of knowing. Israel completely denied the allegations, saying it does not conduct espionage against the U.S. or other allies.
Someone is trying to undermine relations between Israel and the U.S. No way. There's no such thing that Israel spies on the Americans. It's sternly forbidden.
Obviously, Israel has security interests to defend, and we have our own intelligence, but we do not spy on the United States. There are enough participants in these negotiations, including Iranians.
On Sunday, outgoing Israeli intelligence minister Yuval Steinitz and national security advisor Yossi Cohen flew to France, the most hardline of the P5+1 powers, and on Tuesday morning the team left for the United Kingdom. The mission in both countries, authorized by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, is to try to sway the next and final round of talks.
First, go to Washington, to Times of Israel. Washington correspondent there, Rebecca Shimoni-Stoll. Good morning to you, Rebecca.
Good morning to you.
Before we start, President Barack Obama yesterday gave a press conference in which he directly referred to the relationship, or lack thereof, one may argue, with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. This is what the American president had to say. Let's have a listen first.
I have a very businesslike relationship with the Prime Minister. I've met with him more than any other world leader. I talk to him all the time. He is representing his country's interest the way he thinks he needs to, and I'm doing the same. So the issue is not a matter of relations between leaders. The issue is a very clear, substantive challenge. We believe that two states is the best path forward for Israel's security, for Palestinian aspirations, and for regional stability. That's our view, and that continues to be our view. Prime Minister Netanyahu has a different approach.
Rebecca Shimoni-Stoyle in Washington. Those statements made yesterday. The New York Times this morning describing the relationship between Israel and the United States at an all-time 25-year low. Reactions in the United States, I think, within the White House administration to this report of the Wall Street Journal. What is the chatter there? How was it received? The so-called notion that Israel supposedly spied on the talks and then used that information.
Well, it's been received in a couple different places a little bit differently. So, of course, the president, during the same press conference that we just saw a piece of, refused point blank to answer any questions about this whatsoever. And, of course, for the administration, if these reports are true, they are no surprise. This isn't something that just happened. This is something that happened months ago and that they were reportedly aware of already for quite a long time. Now, did this have a major factor, perhaps, in the decline of U.S.-Israeli relations? That we'll probably only know at the test of time. Now, in Congress, because, of course, part of the Wall Street Journal report emphasized that really the insult was perhaps not the spying, emphasizing, and the report did, that the U.S. and Israel, just like most countries, probably tend to listen in to each other fairly frequently. But the fact that the information was then allegedly used to go and lobby Congress against the U.S.'s ongoing talks with the P5+1 on Iran. And that's really the clinching point. Now, John Boehner, the Speaker of the House, gave a very interesting answer today. He said, well, I didn't get any information that seemed like it came from the Israelis that seemed like it came from any sort of secret talks. So he said basically he had no idea, and that any information that he got basically wasn't, that exciting that it seemed to be revealing anything secret that he didn't know. And of course, the administration's answer is, well, we've been briefing Congress all along. So there's a bit of an effort here, at least on the surface. Right. I guess we could call it almost a bipartisan effort to downplay the impact of this report. But of course, it does go into this larger narrative of Israel trying to shape U.S. policy in ways that the administration feels very uncomfortable with.
And it has gotten to the point where I think nobody is really stopping themselves to, give out statements when it comes to the upper echelon, to kind of fuel this so-called feud. When it comes to that report coming out at this time, Israel claims that it's an attempt to undermine the relationship with the United States. But, Rebecca, do stay with us. In that respect, Al-Shalev, I want to ask you, because that's what Israel is claiming, that somebody is trying to undermine the relationship, that this is a concerted effort, and the clock is ticking, obviously, leading up to March 31st.
Well, first of all, in the past 2 years since there have been negotiations between the P5+1 and Iran, every time a deadline like this comes up, then yes, we'll have conflicting reports, we'll have a lot of spins, we'll have reports about intelligence, and we'll always, ahead of these deadlines, we've had a few of them up until now, there's always been a public rift between Israel and the U.S. What Israel is claiming that actually it's a broader picture. It's not only about the Iran deal, but that the pressure, if we connect it to the what we heard the president say, that the pressure coming out from the White House now on the Palestinian issue does, first of all, represent a frustration amongst the Obama administration, frustration that with Netanyahu's re-election, and B, that the pressure coming on the Palestinian issue is only meant to divert attention from the emerging Iran deal. But regarding the report, I think there wasn't any big surprise here. We've been watching the negotiations. Once in a while, Secretary of State John Kerry and the Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif just take like a stroll around the pond or around the lake in Geneva, or we see the Iranian delegation having consultations outside the room. It's a very common photo op that you can catch the Iranian delegation having. It's a well-known knowledge. There are bugs. The information has been transmitted, and Israel, as it has been claiming, Israel Israeli officials. If we were spying on anyone, it was on on the Iranians, and if we were getting information, it was from the Europeans in a legitimate way of gathering intel and information.
But looking at the relationship itself, Ambassador Ayalon, maybe you're one best to answer that. When we look at that claimed 25-year-old low between the United States and Israel, and it seems also as if the American president, now that Benjamin Netanyahu has settled into what seems to be a very secure, next term, this is looking very bad. I mean, irrespective of be it right or wrong, this is looking incredibly bad.
Yes, yeah. First of all, I would go even further. I would say it's probably the lowest it has been in 58 years, not since Eisenhower in 56, 57. Pressured on Ben Gurion to leave and the Sinai after the 56 campaign, has it been so bad? And of course, if we look at the larger context, we see President Obama, who is trying to move further in any kind of political exploits, and he has not much to show, except maybe Iran and the Palestinians. So he's certainly using the internal rift or the personal rift between him and Netanyahu, and the mistakes Netanyahu did before the elections. He leverages it against Israel to really push hard on a two-state solutions, on unfreezing the monies, the VAT taxes, and also to get into a negotiation with the Palestinians on 67 border.
On 67 border, and touching for a minute now on the two-state solution, or shall we say the Palestinian issue problem. Rebecca obviously still with us, but Avi Sischav, I want to check with you because it seems like there is this shifting tectonic plate movement in the Middle East of players who are rising or battling between themselves. You came out this morning with a report at Walla website, quite an exposure that Qatar is trying to achieve a 5-year ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. This is actually a follow-up, correct me if I'm wrong, on a report that you came out with about a week and a half ago, something like that. Great sources. Qatar coming in the Gulf states. This coming out now, this information coming out, as again we said, the clock is ticking towards the Iranian, a possible framework deal with the Iranians and the U.S. This is the Gulf states trying to manipulate or pull in and put their hold on the Middle East.
This is Qatar trying to manipulate.
Sorry, Qatar. Yes.
Qatar itself, it's trying to change the face of the region or the face of the conflict between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And if you ask me, of course, to strengthen Hamas, bottom line, because this agreement is not about the PA in Israel, it's about Hamas in Israel. And what they're trying to reach is a long-term ceasefire, 5 years, 3 years, maybe longer than that. And actually they sent a Qatari diplomat, Mohammed al-Amadi. He was sent into Gaza from Israel, meaning he crossed Erez checkpoint.
He was permitted.
He visited Tel Aviv. He met with an Israeli official, which I know his name, but I cannot, of course, publish his name.
One of the best lines on TV? Okay, we won't tell anyone. Okay.
But Qatar, of course, then again, it sounds crazy, but Qatar, the same partner of Hamas, of the Muslim Brotherhood, is the one that is trying to break some kind of a truce, a long-term truce, a hudna between Israel and Hamas, and by that, to weaken the Palestinian Authority. Now, the Palestinian Authority is in the picture also because it needs the Palestinian Authority for that. But bottom line, what they're trying to reach is, first of all, to strengthen Hamas's hold in Gaza Strip, and then to see from that. What is so interesting in this information is that, first of all, Hamas is not excluding the option of long-term ceasefire with Israel.
We had Dr. Razi Hamad, who wasn't discounting it as well several weeks ago.
Israeli officials that are saying the same. Israeli officials that are saying we cannot exclude the option of a long-term ceasefire vis-a-vis Hamas and Gaza Strip.
And Rebecca Shimoni in Washington still with us. I want to check with you when it comes to the two-state solution. Is that something that the American president is going to still try and push in that respect during his last year and a half, 2 years in term, and try and get it done? And does he think it's viable with that pressure? I mean, what is the chatter about that in Washington?
Well, of course, the question is mostly a wait and see, particularly regarding what action the U.S. is going to choose to take in the United Nations, which is the most likely venue if President Obama decides to express his displeasure with Netanyahu. Now, recent indications have been that the administration is still waiting. They've made it very clear that they're waiting to see what they're going to do until they see the compilation of the coalition that will form in Israel. So that's the first step. And then they're waiting to see, as they said yesterday, no, we'd like to see some actions and policies as well as words. So I think right now the state of the two-state solution, and particularly how the U.S. is going to act in the next 18 months, is highly contingent. I will say that on the background of the Iran deal, and particularly after the U.S. has had a couple of really notable embarrassments in the Middle East, most recently the situation in Yemen, there is sort of a pressure on to prove that the administration can pull off something right in the Middle East.
By the end of the Obama administration term, definitely so. But Tal Shalev, when it comes to Prime Minister Netanyahu, I think it's no secret we can say around this table that he would like to see the status quo maintained.
Of course, so that's why the whole Obama administration reaction to Netanyahu's final comments, from the controversial statements about the two-state solution and the Arab voters from the end of the campaign. The Obama administration has been creating an uproar about it in the past week. Almost every day there has been a statement about Netanyahu's commitment to the two-state
Dennis
solution.
McDonough going out speaking about it. The J
seriously, now you find out that Netanyahu is not sincere about the two-state solution. For the past 6 years, he's been building in the settlements.
But come on,
No, this is political maneuvering. This is Obama now using the timing to put pressure on Netanyahu to go to a national unity government, to go to a government that will be more open to negotiating with the Palestinians. Now, Obama has been and the Obama administration has been planning this reassessment, this reevaluation of its track in the UN even before the elections. They postponed it until after the elections because Tzipi Livni asked them to do so, because she said any move now would strengthen Netanyahu. So the Obama administration is framing something now as a reaction to Netanyahu's comments, but at the end of the day, this is something that is very well planned, and they're playing politics as well.
No, fascinating. I don't disagree, but then you know what, Ambassador Elon, I'm asking you, if all of this is pretense, and as Avi Yisachar wrote to me on a paper just now, rightfully so, that everybody understands in many ways in this region that a two-state solution at this point is irrelevant. That even, correct me if I'm wrong, that even the Palestinians somehow agree, get that at this point.
At least Hamas, of course. For the Palestinian Authority, it's the last resort, two-state solution.
It's the last resort, but Hamas is, pushing away. If everybody understands that.
Absolutely. The only one who doesn't, again, and I think this would be probably the historic irony of it about President Obama, that he may again see another failure because he is barking at the wrong tree again. Just as he has failed anywhere else, he has missed the train on a two-state solution at this point. And it's not just that the Palestinians are not ready for it, it's also I don't see anybody from the allies, the natural allies of the United States, whether it's Egypt or Jordan or Saudi Arabia, they are much more concerned about Iran now. So he may miss the boat on Iran, trying again to put a lot of credit and a lot of efforts on something which cannot be worked. And again, he may be, history will judge him as a very failed president when it comes to foreign policy.
But when it comes to Netanyahu and looking at, at the Palestinian issue with the clock ticking on Iran, I just want to go quickly back to this Gaza issue with Qatar. Clearly, as you said, Avi Yisachar, that essentially, Qatar trying to become a player. But if something like this happens, if there's a 5-year hudna, or would it be a hudna or tahadiyah? If it's a 5-year hudna, okay, then Netanyahu, in many ways, almost signed a peace agreement with Hamas.
That's the craziest thing here, that Israel is considering even signing an agreement like that with
without
Hamas
recognition of a Jewish state,
not considering negotiating with Mahmoud Abbas, who's saying I'm with the two-state solution, while Hamas is saying I'm still looking for the elimination of the state of Israel.
Right.
I'm looking for the internal jihad. I mean, this is what's crazy about that. And adding to that, then again, look at what it's going to do for the Egyptian-Israeli relations, meaning Qatar is trying to put a foothold in the negotiations instead of the Egyptians. Now, the Egyptians know about this effort made by this Mohammed al-Amadi. But more than that, you can see that this government, in a way, is more interested with talking to Hamas than talking to Mahmoud Abbas. And I have to add something about Obama and Netanyahu. I spoke 2 days ago with an Israeli official, a very high-rank official, and he said what Obama is doing right now, this is revenge. This is revenge for what happened during the elections. And of course, this is all kinds of calculation, internal calculations in the American politics, in the Israeli politics, and he blames the US for trying to topple, for trying to bring down Netanyahu with all kinds of means, especially money, of course.
Especially money, of course. And then, Talbot, I'm asking you if this is the rift which has become completely bipartisan in the United States, and obviously here, it does feel like Netanyahu, though, signed someone, people call it, and I'm quoting, a blood pact with the Republicans. That, he's just gunning for the fact that he has decided in many ways that there's going to be a Republican president in 2016.
I'm not sure. I think Netanyahu has been working under the assumption that we are approaching the end of Obama era. And, of course, it might have been a wrong working assumption, but that has been his working assumption even before. Now, I do think, and probably Mr. Ayalon would be able to elaborate on this more, but I do think that at the moment, the effort on Iran, it's almost on a verge of coming back to be bipartisan, because at the end of the day, there is a deal here that the administration is rushing into, and I'm quoting French officials involved in the negotiations. There is a very crucial and significant deal here on the table that at the end of the day, Congress will want to weigh in on, the Wall Street Journal report, one of the alarming things I think about it is that really the administration is holding information from Congress that they need to hear about from their foreign allies, from the U.S. foreign allies, and not from the administration itself. That's a problem. So Netanyahu is actually also a player in this lockdown between Congress and the administration. So I think in the upcoming days, weeks, until the agreement will be agreed upon, we're going to see a lot of lockdowns like this in which Netanyahu is involved intentionally or unintentionally. But Netanyahu is not doing anything actually to improve the situation, because while the administration is definitely demanding he replace the ambassador to the U.S., Ron Dermer, at the moment it doesn't seem that he's doing so.
That he's going to move you're smiling, Ambassador.
I'm smiling because it's the perfect storm. It's the perfect storm because of the bipartisanship, not bipartisan, because of the partisanship in Washington, which has never been so bad between Democrats and Republicans, between the administration and Congress, and also, when I took into the bigger picture, between Israel, or more often between the White House and the Prime Minister's office. So all of this is combined together, and if you add the very explosive envelope of the situation in Yemen and Libya and Syria and Ukraine and the political problems in Europe, it is really a perfect storm. Right now, it seems like the Prime Minister of Israel is going to hunker down, hoping that the next 21 months will just pass as quickly as possible. And I think, again, probably from a historical point of view, Obama administration will be on the losing side again, because they're trying to do the impossible now. And again, they're turning actually allies into adversaries and trying to placate enemies, whether it's Iran or other Shiite, and which will not work in the long run. And this is a misunderstanding, a misconcept, a major one, by this administration and by the president himself.
We've all, I just want to say that we've all underestimated this past month. It did prove that we've all, analysts have underestimated Netanyahu's ability, political ability.
That's a mild understatement. Yeah.
So I think definitely we could see this at the end turning out to be a totally different scenario than the one we are imagining. We can't know exactly how much power Netanyahu will be at the end able to exert on the negotiation table without him really being there.
But adding on what Avi said, it's amazing that now, maybe for the first time in history, we have a converging interest between Israel and the Hamas. Both Israeli government and Hamas do not want a two-state solution. They want to marginalize Abbas, and there's a new realignment here in the Middle East, which the Americans are not quite fathoming yet.
I think time will tell, though, who will emerge as the key player when it comes to the Arab world. I think that's the battle that's going on right now.
Of course it is, and this is what's so awkward about this attempt, meaning that Israel is even allowing the Qataris, while they know that it's going to weaken Egypt's position in the region.
Yeah. Thank you all for being here today. You're locked in studio as we move along. All this is taking place just a week after Israel held parliamentary elections, ending with a decisive victory for Prime Minister Netanyahu. Later today, Netanyahu is set to meet with President Reuven Rivlin, who will officially give him the green light to go ahead and form a government. We are now joined by I-24 News editor Ron Friedman, who is standing by at the president's residence in Jerusalem. Ron, what is expected today in that residence?
Hi, good morning, Yael. A beautiful day here in Jerusalem for coalition building. We're here outside the president's residence in Jerusalem, where later this afternoon, President Reuven Rivlin will be meeting with the head of the Elections Committee, Supreme Court Justice Gibran. He will present him with the final election results, And a couple of hours later, Prime Minister Netanyahu will be meeting with Rivlin. He's going to get the green light to go ahead and officially start his coalition building. Now, unofficially, talks have already started, have been taking place for a few days. Netanyahu yesterday met with two of what might be the wild cards of the future coalition. We're talking about Moshe Kahlon from the Kulanu party and Avigdor Lieberman, Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman, who heads the Israel Beitenu party. In both meetings, they were talking about handing out some of the senior portfolios. In the case of Kahlon, he's already been promised.
Exactly. The finance ministry.
The finance portfolio.
And that's the headline of this morning, is the finance portfolio. But Ron, hold on 1 minute, because I want to check with Tal Shalev. When it comes to these portfolios, I think, you know, the news that Israelis are waking up this morning is the demand of the Jewish home for the security. Would it be?
Well, no, there are two main hurdles at the moment, big hurdles. That's the defense portfolio and the foreign affairs portfolio. Both Avigdor Lieberman and Naftali Bennett are demanding the defense portfolio. One of them, probably Avigdor Lieberman, will have to set at the end for the foreign affairs to go back to stay at the foreign ministry, because Netanyahu and the Likud have already clarified that the defense portfolio will be staying probably with Moshe Yaalon. And then now there's a new hurdle emerging between the ultra-Orthodox parties and Naftali Bennett's Jewish home about the religious affair ministries. I think nothing is closed till it's closed. Moshe Kahlon is the first appointment. It was the most natural appointment. It was one that we were expecting, but everything else is going to take a long time, and we'll have surprises about where the big dilemmas and where the crises will emerge, like this religious affairs ministry problem.
Like this religious affairs ministry problem. And Ron Friedman, all of this is expected at what time? Actually, Prime Minister Netanyahu is expected at what time this evening at the residence?
That's right. 7:30, they're meeting here. They're going to give a few speeches, and then they're going to go ahead. Netanyahu can officially start his haggling over the coalition. As Tal said, we're going to be seeing the weeks ahead full of demands from various sources. Also worth mentioning, I mean, this is a long shot, but the threat of Netanyahu going to the Zionist Union for a unity government is going to be placed over the heads of the other potential coalition members. Something to remember as we go forward.
Love it. Ron Friedman, I-24 News editor, thank you for being with us at the President's residence in Jerusalem. Ambassador Ayalon, Tal Shalev, Avi Schaov, thank you so much for being here this morning. We'll get back. The crashing of a German airliner into the French Alps continues, a worrying trend of aviation accidents. We'll take a closer look at the aftermath. First, though, let's hear some more of the morning headlines. Thank you for staying with us. Pardon me. It is I-24 News Morning Edition, the place you should be, because today on March
25.
Thank you. 2015. Yes, we are joined yet again by the one and only Ruthie Sinai, my guru, my mama, and the woman who gives me all the news I miss while scanning the headlines, because she's the senior news editor of I-24 News. Shoot.
Definitely. We'll get you
Get me everything. By the way, before you start, I don't know if you have it. Seriously, I haven't scanned it, but Trump's going to be the president of the United States.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah. He's going to trump them all.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we're going to be bringing out the trumpets. Okay, all right. Let's go to the Falklands. You remember the Falklands?
I actually remember the Falklands.
Southern, for those of you who don't, Southern Atlantic island. There's hundreds of islands, actually. It's an archipelago.
They're doing it again?
Yeah, they're sending troops. The British are gearing up. They're going to probably send some, perhaps even a carrier and some aircraft. And all this, so, for those of you who don't know, except for turtles and, wonderful wildlife, there are also 3,000 people who live there.
Who live there, who want to be,
Who, according to the Brits, want to be British. According to the Argentines, want to be...
not so much, yes.
There was a war fought there there in the 1980s. It's kind of hard
Thatcher's big claim to fame.
Kind of hard to believe that, adults are fighting over a bunch of islands in the middle of the ocean. But anyway, now it's become...
When you live in the Middle East, that's kind of hard for us to believe.
Yeah. Maybe.
Okay.
Anyway, so the thing, though, is that they've discovered oil there, and the Argentinians are very keen on this
making
exploration.
It Argentinian oil.
Yeah, exactly. So that's probably they've the Argentinians just yesterday, I think, signed some deal with the Russians for long-range bombers. They're going to lease from them, and so the Brits are afraid that.
I'm not making light of the issue, but there's a joke one makes about Hollywood that they keep doing, rehashing old movies.
Yeah.
This is it. Can't they figure out a new war?
Totally.
Yes.
Totally.
Okay.
Let's hope no war.
Amen.
Speaking of war, USA Today tells us that Obama, who had wanted to draw down all U.S. troops from Afghanistan by the end of this year, has agreed to a request by the new Afghan president, Ghani, who's visiting Washington, who's facing a lot of trouble back home with Taliban terrorism. And so he's asked Obama, and Obama has agreed to leave, to slow the drawdown, leave 9,000 troops there.
I'm going to be cynical for a second and say that actually this is something that critics and analysts will say is something the United States actually wanted, that Karzai, the deposed president of Afghanistan, the former president of Afghanistan, wanted the American troops out as soon as possible, and somehow found himself out of a job.
Well, I tell you, the thing is, everybody's meddling there. I mean, the Chinese have got a foot in the door, and the Russians and the Iranians, and everybody wants something. And anyway, bottom line is U.S. troops will
staying in Afghanistan
for a while. I mean, it's much, much smaller than 100,000 plus who were there.
But they're not pulling out as soon as Obama did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on. We spoke of the Taliban, cousins of theirs. No, I'm joking, but not really. Islamic State. Huffington Post tells us that they've recruited at least 400 children since January. Remember that horrible video of this alleged Israeli Mossad agent, an Arab from East Jerusalem, Palestinian from East Jerusalem, being executed by a child? So he is one of the crop of new recruits. They go to training camps. They learn how to use weapons. And according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which is this NGO that monitors Syria and other places, they've been recruiting kids with birth defects also to serve as, sort of spies and bring them information and so on.
And really, when you think that, that there's not one more horrific thing that can come out about the Islamic State, it bites you again. Yes.
Exactly. Okay, on to something, I don't know if to call it more cheerful. No, it's probably not more cheerful. Angelina Jolie.
Yes, I'm very glad you brought this to our attention.
Yeah, so BBC and a lot of news outlets have reported this. I remember 2 years ago she had a double mastectomy, and now she's had her ovaries and fallopian tubes removed. She carries the gene, the BRCA1 gene, which
80% chance, I think it is.
Yeah, well, for breast cancer, 80-some%, and for ovarian, exactly. 2 years ago, when she had the double mastectomy, this created, international stir and caused a lot of women to go get themselves checked, for this genetic mutation. And now she's done this. She has 3 kids of her own already, and 3 adopted kids.
And she lost her mother and her grandmother to cancer as well. It was like, I actually she wrote an op-ed in the New York Times.
She did, and she wrote there that her kids will not have to say, my mommy died of cancer.
Yeah.
Her mother died at the age of 49. She's doing this at the age of 39, and her doctors think that this will.
No, courageous, but also very controversial procedures in many, many ways. Yes.
Okay, now listen.
We have it.
Okay. Puppet porn. We have puppet porn?
Yes, we have puppet porn. Because really, after doom, destruction, cancer, and war, one needs puppet porn.
Okay. So the Jerusalem Post tells the story of this very popular Egyptian puppet character. She's an Egyptian woman named Abla Fahita, and she has her own show. And in this particular segment, which has caused a big storm on social media sites, she is shown in a nightgown, commanding her 2 bodyguards.
We can actually watch this, and let's have a let's have a look.
انتوا البودي جاردز؟ طب احب ابدا بالبودي، نقلع الجاكيتة والقميص، نشد الصدرة نوطي نجيب البوتة بسناننا. البوتة مريش مريش.
أبلة فاهيتا.
This is coming out of where?
Egypt.
I listen. I mean,
Very racy.
I'd watch. I really would watch. Yes, the
And
Middle
to
East, the place to bring you
sign
puppet porn.
Yeah, puppet porn. And to sign off, we're going to go to the dancing grannies.
Please.
Yeah, in China.
Dancing grannies.
Yeah, so Chinese square dancing to face the music from the South China Morning Post. Believe it or not, square dancing, which we all thought was something from the south of the United States,
and some of us were cheering.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there are millions of Chinese elderly ladies who do this square dancing.
Square dancing.
Except they've gotten too enthusiastic and noisy, so the government has stepped in, and there are going to now be 12 authorized routines and permissible times and music volume.
You can only square dance in this area. Okay, Ruth C9, fabulous stuff this morning. Thank you for war and puppet porn as we move along. Moving along, sadly, to the news that dominated the cycle yesterday. An Airbus plane operated by Lufthansa's budget airline GermanWings crashed in southern France en route from Barcelona to Düsseldorf. Yesterday, hours after the crash, the French transport minister released an official statement saying that all 144 passengers and 6 crew members on board were killed. Now, the cause of the crash is still unknown. Major rescue efforts have been mobilized, but accessing the remote snowbound region presents severe challenges. The recent crash is the latest in a string of aviation disasters that started last March in the disappearance of Malaysia airline flight MH370. Now, joining me in studio is Avraham Kimchi, accident investigator in the Israeli Aviation Authority. Good morning to you. Let's take a look at the report and discuss what happened right after.
No survivors from GermanWings flight 4U9525 from Barcelona to Düsseldorf. The Airbus A320 with 144 passengers, 2 pilots and 4 cabin crew on board plunged into the French Alps.
The accident took place over terrain that is difficult for rescuers to access.
Contrary to initial reports, the crew did not send a distress signal. Civil aviation authorities said it was air traffic control that decided to declare the plane was in distress at 9:47 GMT because there was no contact with it. About 52 minutes after takeoff, the plane made an extremely sharp descent for some 8 minutes and crashed at around 10 a.m. near the town of Barceloneta. A tweet following flight radars shows the plane initially climbed to 38,000 feet before it started to descend and lost signal at 6,800 feet.
We do not have any information about the circumstances of the accident. I can assure you that we will do everything possible to fully explain what happened. All relevant authorities have already been alerted. We are deeply sorry for what has happened.
GermanWings is wholly owned by Lufthansa, which hasn't been involved in such an aviation accident for the past 22 years. Low-cost carrier GermanWings itself has an excellent safety record with no previously reported accidents. However, the crashed A320 is one of the fleet's oldest planes and has been with Lufthansa since 1991. The captain had more than 10 years of experience with Lufthansa and GermanWings and more than 6,000 hours flying Airbus models. 2 babies and 16 school children were on board the crashed flight. 45 passengers were believed to be Spanish and 67 Germans were likely to be on the aircraft.
The German Foreign Minister Steinmeier and German Transport Minister Dobrindt flew to the region this afternoon. I will travel there tomorrow to get my own impression and to speak with local officials.
The cause of this tragic incident remains thus far unclear. GermanWings announced it would do everything to clarify and investigate what had happened in another dark day in aviation history.
A very dark day in aviation history. Avraham Kimchi, what do we know about what happened? I read several reports that the Mayday alarm was sounded. People are saying that 8 minutes they were in the air, they were crashing. How does something like this happen?
What we know now, actually, it's whatever was published from radar systems around this part of Western Europe, is that about 2.5 minutes after he reaches 380 altitude, he started to descend actually quite normal. He didn't start an emergency descent. We can go down 10,000 feet a minute. He went about 3,500 feet per minute, which is quite low, and it took him 8 minutes The idea that it went on the direction of the flight, on the route, actually showed me that it was intentionally done by the pilot to start with, and then something happened. So if you look about history, quite a lot of people now tend to think about pressurization problems, oxygen, pressure. Sure. We have history of those. There's a funny airplane that went from Cyprus to Greek, if you know. Everybody died. The airplane kept on flying all the way to Greek, went into the holding pattern, because this is what the computer told him to do. And then when the fuel finished, it just went down.
Dropped.
Now, another F-16 went near him and saw the crew sitting like that. It can happen here. We didn't see anybody near it. Speculation is, of course, like
no, I know.
always
So it's speculating that
around.
maybe in those 8 minutes people were passed out because of lack of oxygen, or, I mean, what are we looking at?
We need about 20 seconds to actually lose your conscience at around 38,000 feet.
Right.
It's very fast, including the pilots. Now, we had incidents like in Australia, an oxygen bottle exploded through the wall and started fire, and they actually managed to go all the way down. Right. What happened here is still unknown. Like always, we wait for those boxes, which are not black, never was black, they weren't black.
Okay.
It looks as if it's pressurization, but still,
which means what? That the oxygen just, if you explain the process.
Let's assume, and I'm just saying because I heard the pilots of Lufthansa this morning said they don't want to fly Airbus. This is something new, which I'm not sure it's everybody or a lot of them. They had a problem with the door. Again, I don't know. If a door will explode out, we'll have a decompression immediately. It's a huge opening. We don't know yet. Right. What we know, it's not an emergency descent, not at all. It's as if the pilot actually checked, went, let's go down.
Right.
And he went down and then died or whatever. Yeah. So it went down on the route, on the direction, about 3,700 feet down, and that's it. Yes. Now, there is another item which I'm not sure about. It says that there are 6,000 or 7,000 airplane leveled off. If it leveled off, it could happen because of radio altimeter that leveled the autopilot without the pilot. And then it went into the ground because the ground there was something like 10,000.
Well, something like 10,000 feet.
Yeah.
Is there, and again, I mean, because it's all assumptions right now, and as you said, we will not know anything until the box emerges or they find the box. Is there a problem with the Airbus, as you said, that some German pilots are saying that they don't want to fly it? Is the Airbus a plane that, you know, is more prone to have accidents? Or
I just flew to Eilat with an Airbus 320 2 weeks ago, and it was just after the very funny crash of the Indonesian from Surabaya to Singapore. And I talked to the pilot, and they like the airplane very much. We, the Boeing pilot, I never flew the Airbus, but as a passenger, like Boeing, whoever buys a BMW likes a BMW.
Right,
and then when he moved to another one, he said, wow, how did I... It's normal, it's human. I don't like the Airbus because of a lot of things, but I don't think it's any mechanical.
Nothing specific to that one. But tragedies that, you know, irrespective of what caused, a horrific tragedy of 150 people dead. Kim, thank you for trying to help us make sense of this morning. And thank you for being here. As we said, a terrible tragedy in Germany. When we get back, we're treated to an apocalyptic image of Tel Aviv and more happy news, courtesy of one of Israel's hottest visual artists. We'll take a closer look. First, let's hear some more of the morning headlines. Welcome back. It is still Wednesday, March 25th, 2015. This is still the morning edition. Last I checked, I am still Yael Levi, and thank you for staying with us. Because the next item is one that actually is my favorite in a very morbid, bizarre way. The cliche says that art imitates life. In this case, the works of our next guest, visual artist Eitan Witkon. Am I pronouncing your name right? Yeah. Eitan Witkon. Love the hair.
Thank you very much.
We certainly hope that is not the case, and you will figure out in a second why. Eitan's new collection of photographs, which he will be showcasing at the annual Tel Aviv photo exhibit starting Thursday, shows famous landmarks in Tel Aviv as they would look in a post-war apocalypse. In them, we see some of the city's iconic buildings superimposed over images of urban landscapes destroyed by war. Of course, I'm losing my voice because I'm a Tel Aviv resident, as are most people around this table. So let's have a look at some of the images, which, it is important to note, are not done on Photoshop.
Oh, done.
Right, right?
It's done on Photoshop.
It's done on Photoshop.
Yeah,
they are done on Photoshop.
yeah.
Sorry, because that's, I did not write that line.
Yeah.
Which is important to stress, are done in Photoshop. First of all, Eitan, I want to start, before we take a look at these pictures, hold on 1 second. Before we take a look at these pictures, let's take a look, let's stop on the first one, and Eitan Witkon.
Where do I look? Where do I look?
You look straight ahead, straight to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, this is the Tel Aviv municipality, and that looks like it's been hit by an RPG.
Kind of.
I'm horrified. I live right next to that square.
Me too.
That's kind of creepy.
Me too.
Okay, now you pass by this building every single day. They're called Rabin Square, the square of the rallies. You looked at the building, you were like, I want to make sure, I want to see how this would look like destroyed.
Not exactly. And actually, this is where the mayor is sitting, just in this corner. But that was
okay.
that was not the intention
yes.
of this walk. But
okay.
Rather than, I thought when I did this one, I thought it was like after like a massive propaganda about the next war with Iran, or like the bombs is coming up and we have to be prepared and everything. I thought that it's better, like maybe me as an artist will create the image of tomorrow, then the day after tomorrow, then I can, let it go and get over this fear and move on with my life.
No, it's a fascinating point because, for our unsuspecting viewers, and that said, many viewers who watch I-24 News would know that how much the war with Iran or, a possible nuclear Iran or the next war is all constantly being discussed in the Middle East. Yeah. But I want to continue looking at the images. That was the Tel Aviv municipality.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the following image of, okay.
That's the old one.
That's the old municipality, because if you destroy the new one, God forbid you would leave the old one standing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that would be, you didn't just RPG the middle of it, there was also something happening in the back there. Yeah.
But I think the most important thing in most of these images, if you we look close, you see all this destruction in the back, and this is unfortunately we have a lot of these images in the Middle East.
No, true.
And but if you look closer, you see that there's a couple of girls sitting with the telephones and talking, to other people like a routine.
True.
And actually, the title of this walk is like it's coming as a text message. It says like, "Hey sister, I don't know how it's going. The day goes on. Let's talk later. Maybe I skip dinner, And
I'm being bombed.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how the days goes on.
But fascinating and sadly, in a way, that is kind of the Israeli mentality.
That's exactly.
There's one picture that I saw of yours, and I hope that can come up, and that's also the beach picture.
Yeah.
If we can show the picture of the beach being destroyed, that you have the same. There you go.
Yeah.
You have people on the beach. This is an iconic type scene of a Tel Aviv beach. Let's put aside for a second the fact that you nuked the rest of Tel Aviv in the back.
Kind of.
You're kind of destroying the house I grew up in.
Yeah.
But that said, and also that I think it's the David Intercon.
Yeah.
It's the David Intercon, isn't it? Yeah. The David Intercon's upper penthouse floor is being nuked there, but at the top, at the front of it, you see the Tel Aviv people sitting. And one would imagine, I think, that in the event of war, that's probably what Tel Avivians would do.
That's exactly what they will do. This particular picture, actually, if you see the white hotel in the middle, this is a Shmulik Zisser hotel, and he actually commissioned this whole series.
What, for all the tourists?
No, because this is how it's going to look like. Everything is going to collapse, and we still go to the beach, and life goes on. We adapt so easily, too easily.
It's too easily, and that's exactly that.
We adapt too easily to everything.
People who live overseas, exactly, because oh my God, there's more like really, I'm in a coffee shop.
Exactly.
Yeah, but these images. First of all, the idea behind it, I completely understand. It's a fascinating way to confront the fear that I think Israelis are living with every single day, or people of the region. But what was the inspiration of this?
My kids. I want them to have a good future. I want them to have a home. I think, like we are we don't think about, we act out of fear. And we proved that a week ago.
Let me stop you for a second. Your kids were the inspiration?
The kids is the inspiration. They have to know, like, I want them to have a good future here. I want them to live a good life.
That's where you created pictures of Tel Aviv being bombed?
The Tel Aviv being bombed, that's, the idea about all these images. Maybe if I will create it, we don't necessarily have to go there.
Yeah.
That's the idea about it.
That's a good point.
And if I want to create it and nobody else will do anything about it, that's is going to be a prophecy, and I don't want that. I would rather to consider to be a false
prophet than anything else.
Exactly.
This is another picture of yours. That would be.
Yeah, this is the bed. That's a bed. It's
made bed of thorns.
Yeah, bed of thorns. This is from a different series that now just showed in New York. In large scale, and this was all the whole series is about the thorns that like the Israeli prickly
like the sabra.
Yeah, exactly. The sabra, we used to be like the sabra is you have prickle outside and very sweet
on the inside.
Yeah. After 6 years in the Middle East, I think we lost a bit of the sweetness and we get left with a lot of thorns. So I work with these thorns, and the bed is so the bed is kind of part of the installation of the whole show. It's in the middle of the room, and like everybody sleep in the bed that he made for himself.
Ouch!
And if and if we go, like in this direction that we're moving, like if we move on the way it goes, it would be good if we sleep in thorns.
The thorns would be the least of our problems,
exactly.
And the Tel Aviv municipality will look very, very, will look disturbingly so.
Yeah.
But you said to me on the way to the studio that you spent years in New York and you were there during 9/11. So you not just experiencing the hardships of the Middle East, but you were in the States during the fall of the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
Was that an inspiration to the pictures of Tel Aviv?
I think so. I think like after. Is
this a picture you took? And then we're taking.
This is one of the pictures I took from 9/11. If you see that, that's actually from the window
Brooklyn.
of my studio. Yeah, I lived we lived on the East River, and we actually saw the whole scene. Like you wake up in the morning, you see it, and same as the Israeli images, the Tel Aviv images. Everything was so beautiful.
No, I was there. It was one of the most beautiful days.
So exactly.
It was a beautiful, beautiful day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's something surreal about about this one, and that's affected me very much because to see it, and to feel it, it was very powerful. And I know what is urban like, living in an urban landscape, and now it's can change in instant.
No, and I think the valid point of this is, and if we can go back to the images of what is being shown in the Tel Aviv exhibition, is that we have become so sanitized that urban warfare doesn't shock us that much anymore.
Yeah,
urban warfare is most likely, as we're looking at the picture of the old municipality in Tel Aviv, or this would be the Azrieli Center.
Yeah.
You took bites there off of Actually, there are some buildings I wouldn't mind to see. I mean, I gotta say, Tel Aviv.
It looks better.
Architectural questions there.
I'm an architect, by training, and this is my way.
Now there's a kid with an earring. Why?
I think this is from the show. I think that's something else. But this is some other artist. You see, the high-rise bread.
The high-rise bread, and this is your bed of thorns.
Yeah.
No, but fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
Eitan, you're locked in studio with us as we move to something slightly more cheerful. I mean, you're the most, happy person I ever met talking about war. So thank you for that, and I hope we watch the exhibition Thursday in Tel Aviv. The exhibition name is?
Tel Aviv Photo 2015.
2015.
Yeah.
And here we go. And we are now moving to the viral spiral that is the web review with I-24 News correspondent Lauren Izu. Am I pronouncing it?
It's actually Izo.
Izo.
Yes.
Izo, much better. There we go. Lauren, anything and everything, this is the most important part of the show. Anything that actually trends on the web, hit me. What do we have?
Okay, so to start off, something a little bit lighter than the apocalypse. Fast
Amen
food.
to that. Yes.
Who doesn't love fast food?
Well, some will argue, though, that it is apocalyptic. It actually is a scheme. I love fast food. Okay, what is it? What about fast food?
I bet you wouldn't think that the Pope likes fast food. Well, actually, the Pope was touring around southern Italy last week, and he was driving around in his Pope mobile, and an Italian pizza maker made him a special pizza that said Il Papa on it, and actually jumped over the barrier and held out the pizza, and the Pope took it from him as he was driving by in his Pope mobile.
Definitely holy bread, and then we actually have a clip of that, so let's have a look. Okay, that would not fly in Israel.
Probably not. Good point.
Because, I'm saying that would not fly in Israel. I can see there'd be like 3, security guys on that poor pizza guy, knocking him down to the ground, most likely shooting him.
Would Netanyahu grab the pizza?
No, probably not. That would be reported as an incident, and Sarah would not allow it. But I said that on TV. No, so
live TV.
So we have that, and moving on.
All right. Also, another item within the fast food category, a chain in Japan actually came out with a Kit Kat sandwich.
Brilliant.
That they're marketing with Kit Kat.
Yes!
It's like a white bun. It's got some whipped cream in there and some orange jam.
Orgasm.
I don't know.
Come on.
I don't know.
Look at that. So wait, it's got jam, Kit Kat.
Orange jam and whipped cream and a white bun.
Actually, I would take it into another level. If the Kit Kat was really big, think about that.
Yeah.
And we'd stick something in the middle of the Kit Kat, that would be better.
Yeah, the Kit Kat as the bread.
As the bread.
And then what would go in between?
I don't know. More chocolate? Yeah.
More chocolate, the butter.
More chocolate, butter, peanut butter. We've got something. We've got something going here.
We
Lauren.
do.
We do. That's a startup nation.
All right. Next on the list is Taylor Swift. America's sweetheart. She actually.
Are you a fan?
I was a fan for a while.
Yeah.
She's a little fake, I would say.
Okay, that's okay. I mean, I'll go further than that. She annoys the heck out of me. Moving on, Taylor Swift.
So she actually bought the rights for a few adult domain names on the internet. And since she's America's sweetheart, you wouldn't really expect that out of her, but she's actually trying to prevent people from making porn sites with her name.
So what are the names? Can we say those?
Yeah, so 2 of them are taylorswift.porn.
Okay, that's
straight
easy
up
enough.
there, yeah. And taylorswift.adults. And there's some more that I don't think are appropriate.
They're appropriate. You cannot say out loud. Okay, I have something in mind. But yes, and
all right.
And what else?
Since, as you know, I am Canadian, I gotta have my.
I cannot believe that you admitted that on air. Because I love Canada.
I'm proud Canadian.
No. And I'm American. I think you guys are very cute that you print your own money.
Cute. Anyways, so I have to have my token Canadian story.
You must.
There is a 13-year-old boy in Canada, and he doesn't have so many friends in school, and he planned this birthday party at a bowling alley, and he sent out all these invitations to people at school, and actually not one person responded, unfortunately. So his mother sent out a tweet.
It sucks being a kid.
Right?
It's
Kids
awful,
are so
yeah.
mean. So his mother sent out a tweet basically saying that, her son is being bullied and nobody wants to come to his birthday party, and within hours, hundreds of people showed up to his birthday party.
Yeah.
Thousands of celebrities tweeted at him. He got a limo to take him to his birthday party for free. He really he said in an interview that he really got a taste of what it's like being a celebrity.
No, that's wonderful. No, I was just wondering out loud, if I did that for one of my kids here, who would arrive?
I would come.
Yeah, you would come. Yeah, you would come. Eitan would come, and Sarah Netanyahu. But yes.
If she won't busy.
No, but I do, and maybe she'll come. Maybe she'll bring the ice cream. Yes.
Okay,
and what else?
so another Canadian, Justin Bieber.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
You're treading into danger from Justin Bieber. You must go there.
I don't know if
Is he still alive?
He is still alive.
He's still alive. Okay.
That is not the story.
No.
But I don't know if you remember from last year, there was an incident where he was egging his neighbor's house, and it was in the international media.
Which one of them? Which incident of the Justin Bieber from last year?
So his neighbor, his name is Jeff Schwartz. He's trying to sue him for $1 million. For egging his house.
A Jew.
Seriously, but I wish I could sue all the kids that egged my house growing up for $1 million.
First of all, I think I hope he wins. I just want to say, I would sue Justin Bieber.
He says he ruined his reputation, this guy.
He ruined his reputation. I would sue Justin Bieber for being Justin Bieber. But
you could probably get away with that.
Exactly. I think half of the world would support that in many, many ways. Quick one last one. I think we have time.
Yes. So, my personal favorite movie, Pretty Woman. It's actually amazing.
How
you don't
old
like
are you?
it? Don't ask me that.
Okay, are you kidding me? Yeah, okay.
Anyways, so it's the 25th anniversary of the movie. So the cast had a little reunion.
I know.
It's very exciting.
Eitan and I are the same 40-year-old.
I watched the movie last night just to get excited about the story.
Did you research?
Of course, yes, I did my homework, and yeah. So that's a great one. It's classic.
25 years.
Who doesn't love Julia Roberts and Richard Gere?
Yeah, my God. Remember, I was here in that store yesterday and you wouldn't serve me? Big mistake.
Seriously.
Huge. I just quoted Pretty Woman. Wow. At the end of the day, a movie about a hooker. That's a fabulous thing to end on. Lauren, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
Eitan, love your wars. When we get back, something completely different. We will take a look at Focus, I-24 News program, and every week on Friday, a different country, and we will promote their show this week. I think it's a closer look at Iraq. First, though, let's hear some more of the morning headlines. Good morning, I-24 News, morning news edition. Thank you for staying with us. Dyslexia is a horrible disease. It is March 25th, 2015. It's the place
We're not going
to
go double check that.
No, but trust my word on it. I had it two-sourced. We are joined by the beautiful, lovely, and smart, yes, flattery will get me everything, Michael. I'm not speaking about you. I know. Daniel Ziri, who is here to promote and tell us all about Focus magazine. To begin with, one of the great shows on I-24 News that has moved a date, right? You guys are now broadcasting on?
Well, this week we're actually still tonight.
Tonight on Wednesday?
Next week we'll move to Friday nights.
Okay, so tonight on Wednesdays, Focus magazine, I-24 News, what do you have for us?
Well, this week we went to Iraq, because we thought it was important to talk about it, especially, you know, Iraq has been in the headlines for a while. This country's fighting against ISIS. It's actually
the birthplace of ISIS.
The birthplace of ISIS, and also the ground where all these countries are coming together to, you know, fight the threat and eradicate the threat. And speaking of, you may have heard that ISIS, after journalists and everyone that doesn't obey to Sharia law, has now taken on a new enemy, and that's cultural heritage, yes, in Iraq, and they are destroying cultural heritage sites, ancient archaeological sites.
No, it's quite devastating because it's reminiscent, first of all, it's reminiscent of the Taliban, and there was amazing, I don't know if you remember.
The Taliban did that as well, yes.
The Taliban did that as well with some amazing, you know, sculptures that were carved out of Buddha, sculptures that were carved out of a mountain, but here the historic and cultural heritage in Iraq, horrific, you know, destruction of what? What exactly we're looking at in those
sites, ancient sites, artifacts, things like two World Heritage sites, UNESCO World Heritage sites, including Nimrud and Hatra in northern Iraq, and there's really no way to bring those things back. You know,
no way to bring those things back, and also it's safe to say that at the end of the day, the international arena will be more focused on battling ISIS itself rather than doing something strenuously.
They'd rather have that than actual human casualties.
Exactly.
But it's still major because they are destroying major parts of civilization, of Iraqi civilization, what connects people there to the roots, which is a really, really big problem. We spoke actually on Focus to a UNESCO representative of UNESCO in Iraq, who told us a little bit. His name is Axel Plath. He told us a little bit about what's going on there. I have
let's have a listen to what he had to say.
There are many items and sites that have been damaged. We are still in the process of establishing an inventory together with the Iraqi authorities what really has been damaged. There are sites that have been damaged, monuments on the sites that have been damaged. There are library collections that have been removed or burned. Statues have been destroyed. Signs of religious communities have been destroyed. Shrines have been bombed. So there is a great many items and sites that have been damaged or destroyed, particularly throughout the last months, where we have seen that heritage has been taken as a hostage in a very dramatic, appalling way.
Daniel, what, if anything, can be done about this? Because
not much, yeah. We asked him this question, actually. What can you do about it? They can't obviously physically go and protect the sites, physically go and put an army there, because that's just not possible. The only thing that they can do is raise awareness, which we know doesn't leads to great speeches, but not much. Not
much of it, as you said before, and you know, rightfully so, but sadly so as well. That when it comes to international powers or people who can, you know, position armies, they would do it first to protect civilians.
Yes.
But Iraq is fractured. Iraq is a country that's actually, you know, many say does not exist anymore. And you guys at Focus magazine have also pinpointed, I think, one of the more fascinating aspects of Iraq, and that's the Kurds, correct?
The Kurds. Well, you know, as the Iraqi army is, you know, struggling with ISIS, the international
struggling
forces,
to be an army, yeah.
Absolutely. International forces are also bombing the sites that are controlled by ISIS, all the zones. Well, the Kurdish fighters are still there, and they actually just went, and they're here pushing back, the militants, pushing back the
Kurdish fighters are the only ones actually on the ground that are making gains against
Absolutely.
ISIS.
And they're volunteers, most of them. A lot of them are women, which is something incredible to see, especially in a Muslim environment, Muslim country, to see a woman.
There was actually a report that they're being used by the Peshmerga Kurdish as women because, according to ISIS, some fighters believe if they're killed by a man, they go to heaven and they get 70 virgins. The woman, they get nothing.
Absolutely.
And so the women are on the front lines in many ways.
Yeah, it's kind of a scary factor for them. But we actually spoke to a Kurd in Erbil, which is one of the Kurdish cities in Iraq. And he told us a little bit more about the fight and what his people are going through. Let's hear it.
Let's have a listen.
Nobody expects from us to withstand ISIS after Iraqi army collapse. Maybe many people even didn't know that there is such a force here. And they were quite surprised to see women in an Islamic country. The majority of the Kurdish people are Islamic. And they saw women in an Islamic country taking part in battles, fighting directly against a force which even not consider them as equal. And we were successful. The international community saw that, and they really helped us. More than 50 countries are supplying arms, and they are also giving us training and so on.
No, it's fascinating about the Kurds in northern Iraq, because at the end of the day, I think one of the main issues, as you mentioned, fascinating with the women fighting or not, but the Kurds also want their own country.
They do, yeah. And it might be kind of jumping on a bandwagon here and trying to get, in the process, their independence. It's recognized by some countries, not all of them. But they practice some form of an autonomy in many ways in northern Iraq. But it's, will they, at the end of this battle against ISIS, which will conclude at one point, really get what they want? They're definitely trying and doing their best to push them now.
Yeah. But, this is fascinating stuff this evening on Focus Magazine. What time?
After the evening edition.
After the evening edition. And we've locked you in after the evening edition, I-24 News Focus Magazine.
Yep.
That's, I think, 9 p.m. No,
9:40 our time.
9:40 Middle Eastern time. And Daniela's locked in studio because one of your favorite people in the entire world.
He wishes, really, but okay.
No. Michael Friedman, the genius of sports that is Michael Friedman.
The master.
The master.
We're going to leave Iraq and we're going to go a little to Europe because
we should, right?
A little happier. We have the UEFA Champions League. It's a little more exciting. No one's getting their heads cut off.
Hey, man. No, we did. We've had death, destruction, and sadness. And now we have Michael Friedman.
We have a little sadness for England, because the English clubs, unfortunately, are not as strong as they used to be. And
but it's been quite a while for them not being strong.
It's becoming a trend, actually. So we have
losers.
We've kind of taken a video to see what's happening, why England is suffering, while the rest of the Europe is doing so much thriving.
Okay, let's have a look at what's happening with those British football clubs.
The British have always had a complicated relationship with the European mainland. So has their football, especially this season. The Europa League's last English representative was Everton, but was then eliminated by Dynamo Kiev. Chelsea was knocked out by PSG, Arsenal by Monaco, and Manchester City lost against Barcelona in the round of 16 of the Champions League, leaving not a single English team in any European competition. A situation which Chelsea manager Jose Mourinho finds quite uncommon.
I think it's the second time I don't reach quarterfinal in all my career.
Nor is this a rare situation. This is the second time in 3 years in which no English teams made it to the final 8 of the Champions League. Arsenal manager Arsene Wenger is still trying to look on the bright side.
Yes, I would take it separately from the other years. I'm very disappointed to go out tonight, of course. But we have a lot of positives in the game. The overall situation is very disappointing.
The early exit by the English teams is especially surprising considering that the Premier League is the richest in Europe, which is of course makes the first choice for many of the top players. So why are they still failing on the European front? Some may say the reason is the fact that the Premier League has no winter break. While all the other top clubs have some time to recharge their batteries in late December, for the Premier League, teams have the busiest time of the year with the Christmas frenzy. Maybe with such big money around, the Premier League's top teams should have squads that are big enough to deal with the fatigue. But if they can't, they should still try to find something positive to say, even if their fans won't buy it.
So in the current moment, we will analyze and we'll see which is what we must do to try to continue improving. But I think that at least the two last year we improved.
Yes, the Premier League is tough and competitive, far more than the Spanish League, who is far more successful when it comes to European competitions. Yet with 3.2 billion euros per year on TV rights, the clubs can and should do a better job once they go and play in the continent. The present may not be so bright for the English teams in Europe. Does this mean something about the future? Impossible to tell. The Bundesliga sent 2 teams to the final 2 years ago, and its teams have been doing well in Europe in recent years. But 10 years ago, the Bundesliga went through the same situation the Premier League is going through these days. Just like in any other race, sometimes you're ahead, sometimes you're behind, and only time will tell how the Premier League will respond.
So sometimes you're ahead and sometimes you're behind. But what would you say? What would you say? We're having too much fun here, guys. What would you say to the British football clubs? What would you think? What do you think is the problem? The foreign coaches? That's me. That's me theorizing.
I don't think it's the foreign coaches because in every league you have foreign coaches. One of the biggest arguments is the winter break. English clubs are playing what's called, the football frenzy, where they're playing 3 games in a week, whereas all the other teams in Europe are getting a week, a month. Germany, they take a month off. It's amazing, and it gives them a little chance to recharge their batteries. For England, it's one of the best things about the league is that it goes all year round, but it does affect the players. It's a long road. It's very exhausting, but the English Premier League is looked at as the greatest league in Europe.
Didn't they invent football or something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah, okay.
But then why are
they call it soccer?
Take that back.
No, you can't say soccer.
Boo, no.
An Englishman would be very upset if they heard that.
Yeah. No. That is the real football. Yes.
So we unfortunately are seeing this trend, and a lot of it is because it's a golden era for Bayern, Barcelona, Real Madrid. Each of those clubs have been going to the semifinals year after year.
Right.
So with England, they're going to have to figure it out.
Who is the best to me? And again, I'm asking lame questions, but who is the best club in Europe right now when it comes to
Today, you would probably go with Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona.
The Germans.
They're the 3 that are the powerhouse. Chelsea, they unfortunately they got knocked out against PSG. Arsenal got knocked out against. I was
Danielle, I just have to tell you because he's a Chelsea supporter, and it's
It was a painful night.
My heart breaks for you a little bit.
I was a little heartbroken that night as well.
I'm sure. Yeah,
but the French football, surprisingly, they had 2 teams now that beat Arsenal, Monaco got through, and PSG beat Chelsea. So French football is, if you go based on the Champions League, they're the better of the leagues.
They're the better ones, when it comes to that. Okay, and what else are we looking at?
Steve Nash.
Yes.
Wow. This guy is a phenom. He's unbelievable. 41 years old. He's been playing in the league.
He's 41?
41.
He's 41?
This was his 19th year in the league. I mean, I've been watching him forever. He's Canada's best. I mean,
if something, I know.
If something that Canada can bring out, it's Steve Nash. So they could be very, very proud.
Danielle, you're not Canadian, I hope.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's
that and maple syrup. But Steve Nash, 41.
2-time NBA MVP.
Wow.
He averaged 14.3 points a game, 8.5 assists. He's the most accurate free throw shooter, scoring 90.4% of his attempts. He's a phenomenal player.
But he's stepping off. He's stepping off this year. He's still playing. He's stepping off at the end of the year, no?
He went to LA Lakers in 2012, and through a series of injuries, he hasn't played at all this season. So it was kind of like
so all of a sudden,
prolonged.
41 got to him.
Yeah, the age caught up.
It does catch up to you. I'm warning you, Michael.
Unfortunately.
It really does eventually, but no, but it is an amazing career. And it's amazing to me that basketball actually, sorry, it's a chicken conversation, is a sport that one can actually maintain their stamina in their 40s, because that's a tough thing to play.
And it's a very competitive game when you have guys 19, 20 coming in.
Exactly.
And you see these young guns going against these veterans, and it's amazing. Kobe Bryant's no spring chicken.
No spring chicken, but that is a career that can span, that doesn't end just in your, in your late 20s or in your early 30s.
Whereas football, on the other hand, usually you're retiring from maybe internationally you're out by 32, 33. Very few players make it past, unless you're a goalkeeper, it doesn't happen that they're going through long. But Steve Nash, he's an amazing player.
Amazing. I mean, if I were Canada, I would put him on a bill of money or something.
And now he's looking forward to.
We'll transmit this. I think Steve Nash deserves his own Canadian piece of paper.
I would give it to him.
You would give it to him. Michael Friedman, thank you so much for enlightening me and Daniel Ziri. Remember also Sports Magazine today. When? What?
7:40.
7:40. I-24 News. Don't forget to tune in also tomorrow morning. I-24 News Morning Edition. Don't forget to check us out on all those social networks: Facebook, Twitter, whatever else they invented, and tune in tomorrow morning. Thank you for staying with us.